pronounce your name. Dennis Hodge, Dan Johnson, Phil Sheridan, Kevin Powers, Roger Noonan, Larry Didio, Matt Gagne, Eric Hammer, David Speedy, Tom Dickinson, Glenn Morgan, Adam Lenore, Chris Mays, Corey Brand, Steve Guidetti, Tim Gerard, Tom Kelly, Tim Mallory, John Eggleston, Chris Farnham, Brian Brown, Tom Aurelia, Phil Hart, Joe Boda, Ernie Quackenbush, Chris Delray, Mike Kuhn, Jeff Waddell, B.J. Allen, Morgan Holcomb, Greg Jabut, Sean Martindale, Chris Whitman, Kevin Mickle, Earl Graham, Assistant Coach Tim Graham, Assistant Coach Steve Jabut, Head Football Coach Paul Bercockley, and a special honor to one of their brothers. It's my honor to call up Bert Walter Jones, who passed away. Brother Sandy, please come forward and to receive the jacket that will forever immortalize Walter in the class of 1993 into the Glens Athletic Hall of Fame. Presenting this 1993 team into the Glens Falls Athletic Hall of Fame is head coach Paul Bercockley.
I feel like a priest. I'd just like to thank the grandstanders for putting on another fabulous affair. It's unbelievable the work that goes into this thing, and they pull it off so beautifully every year, and just want to congratulate Chip and all the guys that put this thing on, which is great. Seeing that Bill's not here, I can spend a little more time.
Not too much, Harry, not too much.
Get this book.
Hey, we're like the Oscars. If he goes over, we'll start playing the music, all right?
As you can see, this is a great bunch of guys that we had here back in '93. It was just a fabulous time that we had together with my two friends and our assistant coaches, Steve Zerlo and what's his name? Bob This all started way back like in '91 before we got to this. So I just wanted to spend a few minutes just to tell you about what had happened. It was an unbelievable time in football in the Capital District. We had difficulty finding non-league games. We would end up playing 7 games and then we didn't know where to go. So the Metro League started because nobody else could find any games. So we ended up getting hooked up with the Capital District schools, Bethlehem, Guilderland, Schenectady, Albany, and here's Little Glens Falls going down there and playing all of these schools. And we were, in '91, we had a very low turnout, so we had to bring up 10 of these guys. I think it was Corey and a bunch of these guys came up. And I still remember we had to go down and play Columbia. In Columbia, they had some running back that was supposed to go, big time. And I'm going down there with 10 10th graders, all starting against Columbia, Plattsburgh Boys School. I still remember Greg Jabut. They ran sweep to his side. He was the outside linebacker. If you ever see a deer in headlights, this is Greg. He was like, they ran by him. But anyway, we came back. We ended up losing the game at 13-6, but the kids really did well. We ended up it was a 5-team deal. You played 9 games, there are 4 non-leaguers, but you played 5 in your league, and we ended up 3-2, which is pretty good with these guys. The following year we come back, we've got a few of the juniors now are coming up, and we didn't start off well. I think we were like 3-2-1, and I might have mentioned the fact that I was a little disappointed to the guys. So the last 3 games we ended up playing Gilderland, Queensbury, and Hudson Falls, and we outscored them like 84-10. And that was kind of like the springboard into the '93 season. Now the '93 season was the first year that we had this state tournament thing going. And we started the season as preseason favorites, and we held that up. I was doing some information, my wife and I went down to the library, because after 20 years, I don't remember why I played golf at this morning. 20 years ago, I don't. So I go down there and we check out the stats, and for our league that we played, the 9 games that we played, and that year we played Niskayuna, I forget who else, Burn Hills, a bunch of teams from the Capital District. We scored 272 points and gave up 31. Most of that 31 came late in the ball game, like in the 4th quarter, when we tried to get everybody in to get a little playing time. And I was talking to Steve Gaddetti last night. We spent some time down at St. Lawrence Street Tavern down there, and he said he very seldom ever got in the 4th quarter, and a lot of times he never got into the second half. But after the season was over, we went 9-0. We beat Hudson Falls on a Saturday. That's when Doug Kenyon informed me that because of the new state format, we started a week too late. So we had to play Wednesday night in Shenandoah against Scotia, which was 8-1 at the time. It was a really good football team, and they were almost as big as we were, but nobody was as big as we were. Gaddetti was the smallest guy. He was 185, but when we weighed him in, we should put weights in here. You put weights in his pants to get him up to like a goose. And then we had Phil Sheridan next to us. He was about 300. And then we had Joe Boduck, who was about 245. And then we had Timmy Gerard, who's not here, who's about 310. And these guys are all over 6 feet, well over 6 feet. And then we had Walter, who was 275. And then we had Ernie playing tight end. He was about 6'4", about 230. And then we had Chris Del Rey, who was just an absolute rocket. He ran so fast you couldn't even see him. He was our wide receiver. And we had Corey in the backfield that could just cut on a dime. It was unbelievable. And then we had Tom Kelly at fullback. I was trying to go over to defense. I can't remember. Grammer was telling me. We had Dango Johnson playing linebacker. He was about 240. It was just unbelievable. And then in one game, I think Timmy got hurt a little bit. We substituted with Larry Didio at 305. It was just, I would go into the huddle and I would look like this. I still remember Ron Ravina from Boston Spa. We never tried to run the score up, but we didn't tell the kids not to score. We beat him 57 to something, and all he came up to me and he says, I'm just happy to get out of Jurassic Park. It was just unbelievable. So now we end up going to Scotia. We have to play them, and they were very good on a Wednesday, and we end up beating them. I says, okay, this is good. Now Doug comes back to me and he says, you got to go to Plattsburgh on Sunday to play Peru, who had a kid who went on to the University of Virginia as a star running back for them. I said, are you kidding me? I mean, we were big and we were strong and there were a great bunch of kids. They're still 15, 16, 17-year-old kids. You want me to now do this again? So we start on a Wednesday. We finish beating Scotia on a Wednesday. On Thursday, we try to plan. We got to give the kids a little bit of time off for crying out loud. Friday, we practice. Saturday, we practice. Sunday, we head up to Plattsburgh. And we play them up there. And I still remember Roger. Terrible. My son was, we got a picture of my son. Paul was up there watching it. We're beating them, and we're trying to run the clock out. Roger was one of the best quarterback leaders I have ever had. He used to change plays like every other play. Steve was our offensive coordinator, and he was upstairs calling plays, and he'd send it down. He said, let's run this particular play. I said, okay. So we would send we'd send somebody, who's sent Speedy? One of the guys used to run him in back and forth.
Yeah, Sean Markhill.
Yeah, that's right. Sean was in there. He played in secondary for us. But anyway, we send the play in, and all of a sudden Roger's doing this, and he's making checkoffs. I says, oh, Christ, he's changing it again. He would change probably 30% of the plays. Most of the time they would go. He was just unbelievable. Great leader. He'd be in that huddle, all 5'8" or 9" of them. He'd be like this. He said sit, they wouldn't look for a chair. I mean, they would just drop right there. Great leader. But anyway, we go up to Plattsburgh, we beat Plattsburgh. So now we got to play Yorktown, which ended up going on to win the state championship. They destroyed some team like 42-0. But we had to go down to Yorktown, down to Kingston, and play Yorktown. Meanwhile, on that Monday, the winter sports season started. So I got kids that are playing basketball and kids that are wrestling. So they got to go to practice because back then you couldn't use your football practice to count toward a basketball or toward a wrestling practice. So after they got done practicing, now they're going 14 days in a row, nonstop. After they get done with football practice, they had to go into the gym to play basketball or go into the wrestling room to wrestle. And after this got all done, and as I look back on it, I said, what? And then we get beat down. We get down to Yorktown, down to Kingston, and we played good for about the first quarter. And then the tank was empty. We had nothing left, and they ended up beating us. I don't know, 27, 28, nothing. It really didn't matter. I got into the locker room and almost teared up, and I was so proud of these guys because what they did, what they accomplished during that 2-week period, will never happen again. If you try to do it now, they take you out in handcuffs. You'd be child abuse. The way things are now. So this group of kids right here are probably, for me, and I had a lot of good football teams, but these guys right here made me the most proud for what they accomplished because after that they changed the whole format. And these guys were in a time in Glens Falls that really put us on the map. And I don't really believe that ever since Pat won last year that Glens Falls really had the same notoriety as these guys brought our town, our school, and our families back in 1993. And with a tremendous amount of honor, I present you with this group of guys.
You need a wide